Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking a little bit about school. Now, in the last video, I did kind of go off a little bit saying that I only went to high school. So I never went to, any schooling before then. And it's almost true. So here's the breakdown. When I was a kid, like most kids, I started getting bullied. Now, after about second grade, I started really hardcore skipping school because, in part, there was bullying, there was home life I was worried about, just a series of variables that perpetuated me to no longer want to be in school. And also, a really weird, screwed up thing that did happen in first grade. Now, okay, it was my first or almost first spelling test, and it was first grade, and it wasn't my fault. It was, but it wasn't my fault. Okay? So, I'm in class and I decide apparently, and I don't even remember half of this. I remember writing on that test, but man, I do not remember the things I said to my teacher after I wrote on that test. But the story is, all right. So, kind of explaining the breakdown of my schooling. Basically, I'm in elementary school, all right? Kindergarten, fine because it's kindergarten. But then first grade hits. And by this point in time, I think bullying started kind of around that neck of the woods, but that's just a commonality for most kids. At the same time, I had home life and all those kinds of things that I was dealing with. So, I don't know. I didn't find that school was a saving grace. If anything, it might have been a minute distraction at the time, but in general, it was just not like a place that enticed me. Now, on top of that, the number one thing that made me hate school and the number one thing that made me skip school and start skipping school was my very first spelling test. And it's because it destroyed my entire school life, literally for the entirety of my school life. And it was all because of one spelling test in first grade. Now, I'll tell you how this went. I'm literally 5 years old. I started school when I was 4. So at this point in time, I'm 5 years old in first grade. And we have our first spelling test. And that one spelling test destroyed my school life all the way up until almost the end of high school. I kid you not. And this is how it happened. I had instead of writing the words that my teacher called out to me to write down, like cat, orange, banana, whatever the frick the words were, I decided I would just put X's and O's all over it because I didn't want to spell. I could, but I just didn't want to. So I put X's and O's all over that spelling test, man. I just thought it was cute. I didn't think anything of it. Like, I was just a kid. I was literally 5. Like, what would you expect to happen to a 5-year-old? Now, this is Canadian schooling, so, and I don't know if it's the same in America. My teacher sits me down or confronted me outside or something. She's like, why'd you do this? Like, why'd you write X's and O's all over your spelling test? And I said, apparently, and I don't remember this, but apparently she told my mom that I said this. And I probably did because I was a little shit. But, anyways, I said, well, don't I have, 13 years to learn this stuff? And the result was that they put me in, a learning center until I hit, the end of high school. I'm not kidding. So, I'm covered in fluff. Jeez Louise. Okay, so there's this learning center. They thought I was mentally learning impaired for writing X's and O's as a 5-year-old on a spelling test in first grade that I didn't want to write. And I made it pretty clear I just didn't want to write it. But they take me to this learning center, and they start taking me there continually. And it starts getting old really quick. Now, to be fair, there were a lot of kids, speech impediments, dyslexia, spelling errors, the beginnings of ADHD. And, I could have all these things. I don't know. I haven't been diagnosed with anything, but for all I know, I could have every single thing in the book. But in general, they treat me like I'm stupid, basically. They just treat me like I'm stupid. They treated all of us like we were stupid. There were tons of kids in there, but it was like a group of typically 5 kids on an average session, and it would be one unit in school. So you would go to all your classes, but then you'd have one class to go to this learning center. And I made it pretty fun. I wanted us to do a cooking thing, so we used the home ec room to do cooking with some of our classmates, all kinds of stuff like that. I tried to really make it an entertaining endeavor, but it really made me hate school. They wouldn't let me read the books I wanted to read. They'd make me read the ones in my grade, and I wouldn't read them, and then I'd look even more stupid. They would give me this incredibly boring schoolwork, stuff that no kid would be interested in. Very dumbed down versions of what you already deal with that's dumb in school. So they're kind of like going through it, and they're basically trying to reteach you everything as if you've never known anything. And they just treated us like we were idiots. And it was all because I was 5 and writing on a test. That was literally the thing that got me into that learning center. And then they were like, yeah, you're really, like, they kept me in there because I didn't want to do any of the work in that learning center, so it looked even worse, like I was actually unable to do the work. So this kind of gave me the snowball effect of not wanting to go to school because I didn't like being treated like I was an idiot, and I also didn't like my classmates discovering that I was weird, because I've always been weird, and also that I'm struggling in school, and therefore I'm an idiot. So, they would treat me like I was stupid too. In fact, I grew up being treated pretty much like I was an idiot. Such events in school, I believe, are one of the most important factors in me believing that I had, over a course of time, developed an inferiority complex. And it was that I'm inferior to everybody, I'm stupider than everybody, and ironically, that was one of the best things that ever happened to me because it made me really smart in the end in comparison to the individuals that I was in school with. Now, I was also an idiot, and I am an idiot, but you know what I mean. But literally, this event is what got me to start hating school and be labeled an idiot. I started skipping really hardcore, and then when I got to America, temporarily, lived in California in 2010, I was in 5th to 6th grade. They started taking it as quite an issue because in California, there was more of like a truancy than there was in Canada. In British Columbia, you can get away with basically not going to school. In America, it's a little bit more harsh. Like, they will come after your ass. And in Canada, it's just not the case. You can basically get away with not going, and worst comes to worst is you got a school counselor on your ass, not a truancy officer. I guess CPS could get involved if they found that there was an issue in the home, but to be fair, we had CPS involved, and they never really took us away or anything like that, so I didn't care. Also, CPS is fucked too. Everybody I talked to that dealt with CPS in Canada hated it. Found that it was of no benefit unless they were actually being brutally abused by their original parents, but the homes they would also be fostered in typically abused them as well. So it was just a suboptimal composition of garbage. Now, obviously, it's all anecdotal. I'm not here to denounce the entirety of Child Protective Services. They do a lot of great work. I'm just saying the personal experiences that me and my friends had with CPS, not the best. Suboptimal. Anyways, just I'm trying to make is I started really hating school, started really skipping school, and then when I moved to California with my mom and my sisters for a year, it becomes a big problem with the whole skipping school thing. And they're, they don't think I'm stupid. In California, they didn't think I was stupid. And they gave me a legitimate IQ test. I'm sat down in this counselor office to kind of assess, why are you skipping school? What's up? And it's just because, I didn't like school. I didn't like it. I had a bias towards it from the beginning. Didn't want to do it. Didn't want to experience it. Would rather have just been home, reading, doing anything else, playing outside, whatever. But they give me this IQ test, and they say I'm not stupid and that I'm actually above average intelligence for my age group. Doesn't mean anything because it's so subjective. But they gave me the whole spielio. I remember it was math, language, interpretation, assessment, emotion stuff, all kinds of stuff for you to kind of figure out a kid's brain. But it was an IQ test literally for children to assess me at the time. So I don't know how it scales, and I also don't even know what I scored. I was just told I was above average intelligence in that age range. So that kind of perpetuates me to go all right, so I'm not stupid. We go back eventually to Canada. It's 2010 to 2011-ish. I'm in 6th grade. It's basically near the middle of 6th grade. And none of this information apparently carries over into Canada. And they treat me like I'm an idiot again, which makes me annoyed even more. But then, outside of that, they kept on putting me in this stupid learning center stuff and giving me adapted classes and all this. And I started skipping even more. I'm not kidding when I say I would literally maybe go to school 1 day a week. I was really bad about it. And this is where also the beginnings of anxiety truly began to develop in my mind towards school. Because I wouldn't go for a series of days, and then when I would go, I wouldn't know what I was doing. And then, and the weird thing is I've always been a social butterfly. It's not about being social. I literally just had really bad anxiety towards actually being I don't know what any of this stuff is. I don't know what any of this information is. I don't understand any of it. And then after a day or two, of being there, I'd know everything because it's all easy stuff. It's basic stuff for kids to know. And then I would start skipping again, and then I'd be oh my god, I've missed so much schoolwork, I'm so behind, I literally can't. I literally can't deal with this. I don't want to be going back. I don't want to go back. And this led to a lot of issues. I wasn't allowed to go on field trips. The principal tried to ruin my life at that school. In middle school particularly, it was one of the most abusive things I ever experienced with that principal. She was genuinely a demon. And I'm not saying that lightly. She literally, like, I had permission to go on a field trip to a water park, all right? And I was really excited to go because all of my friends were going. And I had the permission. We were completely good to go. Everything was fine. Had all the forms signed, all that stuff. It was well done in advance. And then the principal says, I can't go because I have schoolwork that I haven't finished and I need to do it. And I'm there with 2 other kids that either weren't allowed to go on that field trip or had schoolwork they had to do. And what did we do? We didn't do our work. We gambled. I'm not kidding when I say we gambled. We were a bunch of literal freaking children. Bunch of little 6th graders to 7th graders, because I don't remember exactly what year this was, but we were a bunch of kids, and we just gambled, and I hawked so much money from those kids. You know, my dad was a gambler, and he wasn't a good gambler. At best, he broke even, and I'm pretty sure he lost some money throughout the time, but I swooped in and I took that money, and now my job's all literally about gambling because I'm a server. That's so ironic. My failed gambler father has created a failed gambling child. But I digress, alright? So, this is the gist of the dealio. I basically skipped school throughout middle school as well. And again, I get friends. I can socialize with anyone. I've never had an issue with socializing with people. My mother was always very good about having us express ourselves, be social butterflies, be very talkative, be very personal, and don't take any shit from people. But in general, like, she legit taught us how to be incredibly well versed in regards to conversation with individuals, in spite of my obvious weirdness. Now, I finally start going to high school, and by this point in time, I had disowned my father, and I had decided it's time to actually go to school. We only have to do it for 4 years, and then when we're done, it's over, and I never have to go back. Let's just get it over with. You know, my other siblings, they didn't have high school graduations. They didn't graduate high school outside of my one sister. I don't blame them, because school's stupid, and it doesn't teach you anything. In fact, I think it makes you dumber. But that's just my personal opinion. It doesn't mean anything. And obviously, it's incredibly subjective because it's based on the schooling that you involve yourself in. There's different levels of education and different places where the district, the schooling, is better and worse. So obviously, what I said, please take with a grain of salt. But in my personal opinion, I hate school and I think it makes you dumb. So basically, throughout this entire time before I go to high school, I did learn a lot of things. But I learned them on my own time and I learned them through my own antics. I learned them from basically like my family members, my brother. He's really good with tech. And that was when I started learning a little bit about tech. I started learning about board games, functions, and stuff like that for board games, card games, all kinds of little dealios. And I would also do like a lot of reading online. I'd read fanfiction.net and whatever stories I could like find on there. I would read a lot on fanfiction.net, which was very popular at the time. And I don't know if Wattpad existed, but it was basically just like Wattpad. And I would kind of like traverse the internet all the time for information. I would read stories. I would basically do whatever. And I would literally like lie in bed all day and just read or do whatever I wanted. I would play on the computer, play Minecraft if I felt like it. I played video games as well. I was really into video games, but I would also literally from the age of 5 going through like my entire life be on the internet and be on YouTube. So I learned a lot of information from just being on the internet. And it's not like great information. It's not like I never learned or absorbed anything. I just didn't learn or absorb a curriculum from school. So that's a point I really want to drive. It wasn't like I never did anything, but I definitely could have probably used some of the education that I was going to maybe get if I wasn't given all of this garbage in school from the very beginning. Because the more they treat you like an idiot, the more you're going to become one, in my personal opinion. Or at least the more you'll feel like one. The more they treat you like an idiot, the more you're going to feel like one. And I didn't want to go to school feeling like an idiot, so I didn't want to ever go to school. It was a big fiasco. There's a lot of other details to it that I don't really like know if they're necessary. They're all over the place in my head, so I don't know. But then I go to high school. And in high school, I fuck shit up. And I'm not kidding when I say that. They put me in all the adapted classes in 9th grade, and they put me in Learning Center, which was like, in high school, it was like a free block, basically. It was stupid. But it's basically like, I would literally finish all of my schoolwork, and whatever thing I had to do in Learning Center, I would pound through like that, and then I would just be screwing around in Learning Center. I'm like, can I play Minecraft now? I'd be like, can I do anything? I'm gonna go on the internet. I don't care if you have rules here. I literally have nothing to do. I can't go forward with my classwork because I've already completed it, and they won't give me more until I go in the next day. So what am I going to do in this class? I'm just going to screw around, basically. And I would just screw around, scroll through recipes online, whatever I could get my hands on, I would just do. It was just stupid, and I hated it, and it really blew ass, and it sucked. But anyways, that's the story of that. And then, but then when 10th grade hit, that's when things started getting really, really diabolical, because I stopped going to the learning center block to have my free block, and I started filling in my class time. Now, I'm pretty sure I was still in math adapted. It was like the most basic math class. And when I went into there in 10th grade, my teacher actually started getting angry because I literally had my scores 100% because it was very easy math. It's very basic stuff. It's not like, anything like physics or I don't even know if they put geometry in there. It was very finite and minute, and they would explain everything. And I was like, okay, this is what we do. And then here's the equation. And then we do this. And then I was like, great. It's all super easy stuff, and especially like in Canada, I feel like the schooling is like the most dumbed down schooling you can possibly have. Like, our curriculum is atrocious. Oh, same thing with French. I remember they tried to make us learn French in school. I would skip that class so hard. Started learning Japanese in high school though, because I thought that one was pretty good, but I never went to my French classes. I skipped all of those too. My French teacher was also my math teacher, and she got really mad because there was this one time that me and Riley, the dude I mentioned in my last video, we were like class clown-esque and like gamers at this point in time, and this was in middle school where we were kind of like evil demons, and I'll tell you about those stories if you want, but at the end of the day, we were nightmarish children. We were just little witty assholes. We were treated really badly in middle school, and we started treating the staff really badly as a result for treating us so badly. But one thing we would do is we would basically just troll our teachers. So and I still think it's funny now, I brought a pair of binoculars into class because I couldn't see the board, and I couldn't afford or didn't want to get a prescription for glasses. I don't even know if we had the money for it, but I also just didn't want them. And I didn't want to go further into the front of the class, so me and Riley would literally, like, use binoculars to read the stuff on the board, and my teacher got mad and told us to put them away or she'd take them away, because it was distracting. And we would do all kinds of stuff, throw bananas on the roof, call crows tacos, and then, like, say there were tacos everywhere on the roof. Like, we were just little weirdos. We filled an entire vent with garbage as children. And he, like, after middle school, I stopped all of that because I was like, all right, it's time to just get over with high school, mature, deal with all this, and then we're done. But, dude, there were stories in high school about Riley still doing that stuff, so it's like, it's funny. But in general, all right, so I'm in high school now. I hit 10th grade, and I have my teacher. I don't remember his name, but he was a really cool teacher. And he literally was like, why are you in this class? And I'm like, I literally tell him, I'm like, it's probably because of that spelling test in first grade. And he was like, why are you in this class? Why are you in this class? You're not struggling with math at all. You're like a normal student. You can literally just do normal classes. And I'm like, well, you tell that to my principal. Tell that to the other teachers. Tell that to the people who are designing my schedule for me. Because honestly, they're not going to listen to me. They don't care about me. They think I'm a freaking weirdo. They think I'm like an idiot. They don't know anything. Like, what am I supposed to do? This has been pushed on me my entire life. What, you think I'm going to change it now? I don't care. I don't have time for this. I'm just going to get through high school and give up. So I go through this whole spielio with him, and I'm like, it's because I put this stupid X's and O's on my spelling test in first grade, and this caused the whole downfall right then and there. It was all because of that. And he literally was so appalled by why or how everything came to be that, he was just, I don't know. He was just like, Jesus Christ. So, that was the last class, and I'm pretty sure he must have said something, because that was the last class that I ever had an adapted class for. And then I started literally just going ham with like normal classes and doing all my stuff. In fact, everybody I had interacted with who was smarter than me in my previous schooling, my previous years, I started exceeding because our curriculum was easy, and they, I guess, I don't know, we were all in the same classes, but I guess my absorption of knowledge was different from theirs. There are certain things we all struggle with, blah, blah, blah. And I was very serious about learning. I was very serious about just getting through high school and being like the top of the top. And at first I wasn't. I think my first report card was like C's, B's, whatever. Like nothing fancy, nothing good. And then by the time I hit 10th grade, it was more to B's and A's. And then I think by that point in time, I'd started going more into the A's. But there were still some B's in there. Now, given that my whole report card was all I's going in before this, for incomplete, Not too bad, not too shabby, but it's high school, it's school, it's public school, and it's Canadian public school. So trust me when I say it's not impressive, it's actually depressive. Now, the point I'm trying to make is school got me screwed up. School was one of the worst things I probably ever could have indulged myself in. Didn't really teach me that much. I'm not friends with anybody really outside of one person that I know from high school. He's a really cool dude. Really cool dude. He was also treated like an idiot. And I don't think he's much of one, but hey, you know what? We're all idiots, I guess. But anyways, that's the gist of it. So this actually, in my personal opinion, made me get really smart. Because my whole life, now, and I don't really look at myself like I'm smart, but people tell me I'm smart, so I'll take their word for it, by all means. At the end of the day, there are so many things that I'm ignorant to, so many things I'm unversed with, so many things I still need to learn, so many things that I am incompetent with in every capacity, so it's not like I'm that skillful. But the thing I'm trying to point out is being treated like an idiot will make you do two things. One, it makes you get really sad and depressed, and it makes you doubt yourself constantly. But two, it can make you also get really smart and learn a bunch of stuff. Because by the time I was being told I was an idiot, and by the time I thought I was an idiot, and by the time I had this complex of inferiority, I would look up and think that everybody else was above me, and that I would have to, just to get on their level, just to get on a normal human level, work harder than everybody else because I was obviously inferior. So what I started doing was I started learning as much as I possibly could. I started doing programming, a little bit here and there. I'm not well versed. I started reading as much information. I'm talking like full grade medical books. I would read about rhinoviruses. I would read about influenza viruses. I would read about diseases, bone deformities. I would read about dietetics. I would read about nutrition. I would read about science. I would start doing my own math. I literally would just do anything I possibly could that I found interesting, because there were certain things I had no interest in that I would not be involved in. But I was really interested in medical. I was really interested in like nutrition and food and cooking and baking. I was really interested in learning like all kinds of little biddles of information. And I progressively gotten more into that over the years with different passions. Was really into making board games. I'm still into making board games. That's the thing. Anyways, it's the gist of it. Is I think that being treated like an idiot actually made me smarter in the long run, but it was a torturous existence. It was a really sad experience. It was a disappointing one, to say the least, and I know that a lot of people have had the same experiences. It's not like I'm special. It's not like, oh, this is a one-off. Mine was just weirdly random as to how I was treated like an idiot to begin with, and then it was all self-induced with my school skipping, and then, obviously, not having any, development in school made me seem to be an even bigger idiot, and then it compounded and compounded and compounded, and was only delivered after I started actually attending school in high school. But at the end of the day, my only education was really in high school, and thank God, because I could not tolerate more than 4 years of school. I don't know how people do it for 12 to 13 years. I know that the first one's supposed to be easy. It's like you're just painting and, playing with toys and stuff, learning how to count your 1, 2, 3, ABC, LSDs. But, dude, school sucks. I don't want to waste my life in school. And post-secondary? Hell no. I'm not doing that. I'd rather be dead. I'd rather be dead than pay to be in school. So, I had a really weird childhood, I gotta say. There are so many stories of weird things. But schooling was probably the weirdest because, for some reason, I was a dummy. I was a dummy. And I'm still a dummy. Big Dumbo. The point I'm trying to make, though, is, if you have a bad experience in school or you're treated like an idiot, or, the big point I want to make here is, even if you have a complex of inferiority and or you feel like you're an idiot or you're treated like an idiot or you are an idiot, you can always not be one. You really don't need to be an idiot if you don't want to be one. Even if you're a dumb bucket of bolts of a human being, literally IQ in the freaking lowdowns. If you endeavor to learn something with your passion and your drive, I'm pretty sure you can learn it. Maybe it takes more effort, more absorption, more time. Maybe your spongy brain's not as spongy as other people's. But if you are passionate about actually executing a certain series of tasks, or you have a drive to learn because you want to exceed others, or you want to exceed your own expectations or the expectations people have of you, or you just don't want to be an idiot, you can always do that. But the other thing I have to point out is there's a point where if people tell you you're smart, you might stop trying to learn, which is why I always tell myself I'm an idiot, even if I learn something and I might be considered smarter than other people. But there's a point where if you're treated like you're not an idiot, you might stop trying to learn, and then you'll actually get dumber than other people, which is why I think it's better, in my opinion, although it does appeal to the complexes of inferiority and also beating yourself up and also not really, thinking you're smart. I think it's better to think that you don't know anything and that you need to learn than to actually be considered smart and that you're good to go. And I think that's actually the double-edged sword that comes with things like learning. I feel like in education and school systems and stuff, I didn't really know anybody who knew anything outside of their bubbles. And I get it's, really easy to fall into a bubble. Everybody wants to categorize you, put you in a box, put you in this age range for this group, this reading letter, whatever the case may, this reading grade, whatever it is, anything. They just want to throw you into a sea of garbage and hope that you swim in trash. And at the end of the day, it's just not how it goes. So even if you're in school, I always think it's good to endeavor to learn as much as possible outside of school. If you're not in school, learn as much as possible outside of you, not going to school. Maybe you have a full-time job. Learn outside of that full-time job. You can always learn more. There's always more to learn, whether it's philosophy, whether it's math, whether it's science, whether it's, cooking or baking or candlestick making or booty shaking or anything. I mean, it works in the dictionary now, so somebody was smart enough to throw that in there, unfortunately. But you know what I mean. Like, in general, the point I'm trying to make to you is if you are an idiot, don't worry, everybody is. If you admit to being kind of dumb, then you can always learn. The other thing I really want to point out to you, though, is like, if people treat you like an idiot, don't listen to them. Screw them. They're probably idiots themselves if they don't see anything in you. But, because there's potential in every human being, in my personal opinion. In general, don't let, like, your past mistakes or anything like that, or maybe not even your past mistakes, but just your past perpetuate your future. Like, you can always make changes to perpetuate some level of happiness, well-being, knowledge, power in your future. So that was the gist of the video, although it was mainly also just me complaining about school, because apparently I guess I'm still salty about that, but not really. That was my story about how I failed school in almost every capacity and got smart by being an idiot. But yeah, if you think I'm ever putting my kids in a public school, if I ever have kids, God, no. Now, saying that, I don't think idiots should breed, so I don't think I'll be having kids anytime soon until I get smart. But at the end of the day, that was the video. Hope you all enjoyed, my friends. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Did you have a similar experience in school? Because I know I'm not the only one. But yeah, anyways, that was the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and it has been lovely. Slater.